LLC together. How to structure your LLC so that you can get approved for maximum funding. That's what we're going to be talking about. Normally, in the past, I've been reviewing credit profiles and going through creating a strategy for those particular profiles. But since then, a couple of people have reached out to me and said that they need help structuring their business or making their business. And I recently worked with a client who does tax repair, and she also wanted to branch out and started her own tax firm. So she wanted to make sure that a business was set up properly. So today we're going to go through the steps of how to set up your LLC specifically for funding. So we always start off with, and I'll be sharing my screen when necessary, but a lot of this stuff, you can just follow along, take your notes, right? Feel free to ask any questions. So the first thing is making sure you come up with a name for your company, of course, and ensure that when you come up with the name is still actually available. So it's a couple of things you want to consider when you're thinking of a name. Of course, your branding. You want to also ensure that the name is easy to remember, right? That it's catchy. So you don't want it too long, you don't want it too short. Typically, most names, like 1 to 3 words, is probably the best uh, length for the name of your company. Another thing is, and this is something that I had to overcome, you can have multiple companies. You can have multiple companies. You can have a holding company, you can have a management company, you can have a company for the thing that you actually do. So for instance, um, I'm a credit coach, I'm a small business funding specialist, but I also have a management company, right? Some other businesses aren't that great with AI. I can help small businesses with AI, so I started an AI consulting company. And you can create these different companies for their individual purposes, and you can have your companies work with each other, right? So going back to the name, you don't have to, and I say that to say you don't have to settle for one name. You can create multiple names for multiple businesses that you want to start. Let me put my phone on D&D. Multiple names for multiple businesses you want to start. So one thing that happens is trying to figure out if your name is actually available, right? So there's a couple of ways we can do that. One website I like to use is called Name Check. So you can literally go here. If you're coming up with a great name idea, you come here and you can type it. You could type in the name. If anybody has a name that they've been thinking about, or you already have, let's say you already registered with the state, but you don't have a website yet, somebody give me a name of their company, and we can right here and see if you already have a domain, or if someone has that name, or if that name is available. You want to do this because this can save you money in the future. My channel, my personal brand is the Credit Protector, right? When we type that in, because I did not look to see if this name was already taken before I decided on it. I think the last time I looked it up, it was like $16,000. Let me see. So you see here, someone already has it. It's already registered. And basically, when I looked at this, I believe when I looked it up, the creditprotector.com was about $16,000. So it's super important that you go ahead and check the name to see if it already has a domain registered for the company name that you're thinking about. It can save you a lot of money. I remember also Alex Harmozy was saying that he paid for acquisition.com. He paid like freaking $275,000 for the name, something like that, right? Just imagine how much Apple would pay for apple.com or orange.com, right? People are literally just buying names and just keeping them, much like people will buy Bitcoin or gold and just hold it in a vault. People will literally buy domain names and just keep them, waiting for someone to come and buy it. So single word domains typically fetch the highest price because they're the easiest to remember, right? So just FYI, definitely all you can use name check to look it up. Another place you want to go when you're looking up the the name of your company, and if that name is available, of course, is your Secretary of State. So, of course, every state website is different. You would go to the Secretary of State, and there's typically a search feature for you to look up a company. With that, it can get into extra details because then we're looking at, you may want to look into getting it trademarked later, and that's when you would get an attorney to do even deeper research, because choosing the right name can get a little complicated, especially when we're thinking about when you want to trademark or register the name. There are different categories for your name. So for instance, Pandora. Two companies that we both know and love are called Pandora, but one is Pandora Music and then one is Pandora Jewelry. The reason that's possible is because they're in two different sectors or industries. They're able to do that because when they registered the name and the trademarks, one was for jewelry and then one was for music. Take that in consideration when you're thinking about your name. Now, when we're talking about getting funding, you want an ambiguous name, personal. So when I first started I started in the consumer credit space. The company was Leveled Up Credit Services. I was literally denied bank accounts because of that name, because the name had credit services in it. So people would say, "Oh, do you do credit repair?" I didn't know any better. I said, "Yeah, I help people with their credit." It's like, "Oh, we can't do business with you." Right? Credit repair is a more of a restricted industry because one, the people do a lot of chargebacks. They don't like to pay. You're helping people who don't pay their bills anyway. So you get a lot of that. So it's considered high risk. The other thing is that essentially when you are helping people improve their credit, you're teaching them the game. And the banks don't want you to learn the game and how the system actually works, right? So that was the background. So I had to change and get a whole new name. So when you're thinking about this, get a name that kind of doesn't mean anything. For instance, Starbucks. We know that it's coffee now, but when he made the name, what is the Starbucks? Nobody knows. It's just two words put together. Or when you're thinking of, let's say you want to have a management company, you want to do something like solutions or management, you could just put corp or group, something like that, team, something of that nature, so that it's more of a over-encompassing type of organization, and then you could put other businesses below it. Banks like that, and they're a lot more favorable to those type of names because at that point you kind of have a clean slate. They don't know exactly what you do, and that way when speaking to the bank, you can definitely approach it with a bit more leverage, and they will be more kind to you and your business operation. Okay, so choosing the right name is super important. After you choose the right name, you're going to choose an address and a phone number. Sorry for the shaky hand. So when we're talking about address, there are a ton of places to get addresses, y'all. I mean, so many places to get a business address. Now, what you can do, depending on your business, a actual, if you already have a physical location, like if you're a restaurant, a dog hotel, a dog grooming service, a barbershop, a hair salon, then obviously you already have a location, a physical space. So you don't need a virtual space. But let's say you are a service-based business and a lot of your services, you just do consulting online. You have a e-commerce, right? You do e-commerce, or maybe you're an influencer or something to that effect, and you don't really have a physical space yet, you can always go and rent office space. All right. Regis is one. There are a lot of them. Regis is one. You also have Opus. Let's see, virtual office. Right. There's Alliance. Okay. And with these, they all basically do the same thing. They have different pricing. The pricing can range anywhere from $30 to like $150 a month, depending on what level of service that you want. Some of them you can literally just get an address for mail to be sent there. Once you have the mail sent there, they scan the mail, they upload it to the app, and then you could just check the mail virtually or have it forwarded to you. Either way is fine. Some of them will even give you physical spaces where you can start. Let's say you did taxes and you want to be able to meet your clients face to face. They do have physical meeting rooms where you can book, like here, where you can book the room and meet them, meet your clients. They also have co-working spaces. Some will also have virtual numbers with it. We'll talk about that. You absolutely want to get a virtual number. If you want to get super spicy and look like a really big built out company, even if you're just a one man, one woman show, you can even have them provide a live receptionist. That way, you never miss phone calls. Because once you start running ads, people are going to be ringing your phone line, and you may not have the opportunity to get back to everybody. So it's super dope to have that live receptionist there to field those phone calls. Once they field those phone calls, they can kind of act like a pre-qualifier or appointment setter for you and put those people on your calendar or just forward them to you. All right. So this one is Alliance. Another one, who else do we got? We saw Opus, Virtual Postal One. There's another one called Da Vinci. Da, Da Vinci. There we go. All right. So we also have Da Vinci. They virtual offices as well, all over. And the reason that a virtual office is important is because the banks will look up your company. They're going to look up your company. They're going to Google you, and they want to see your physical presence and your web presence. I actually had a bank, when I used a virtual address, they actually Googled it, and the virtual address just came up as like an alleyway or something. So in that case, I had to switch and get a whole new address that came up as an actual building and storefront. So make sure you always want to double check the address that you're getting to ensure that it is not coming up as a P.O. box, that is not coming up as just a random alleyway down the street, because the banks will either ask you to choose another address or they'll just deny you a bank account simply solely from the address. So it's super important that you have the right address. Now, something else a lot of people don't talk about is how do you make sure that the address you actually choose is good? Like, what can you do to ensure that the address you got isn't going to be flagged? You can actually check that to ensure that you're choosing a good address that the banks will accept. Most people don't know this. Like, people don't realize that the banks are actually searching up your address, and that there's a way that you can look up your address prior to them looking it up. This way you know for a fact that the address you're choosing from the virtual office website is going to be a good address that you can actually use. Because nothing is more annoying than going through paying for an address that you can't use. Where's everybody located from? I'll use one of your cities. If you guys drop your city in the chat, I can type one in, pull up an address. I want to show you guys how this works and what you need to do in order to make sure, double check that the address you have is a good address. Anybody want to share? No, y'all shy. All right. Let's see. I'll just do Springfield. That's nice. All right. Ghana. No. All right. So here's a particular address. Boom. We're gonna go to USPS and actually drop this address here where we can confirm it to make sure that it's going to show up as a real address and not just any old New Jersey. All right. So let me show y'all. Oh, damn. Boom. Why I keep doing that? All right. So y'all see here where it says commercial mail receiving agency. You want this to say no. This is how the banks and the systems know that you have like a P.O. box or a virtual address or something. So when you're searching up an address, right, you just go to USPS.com. You can go here. You can go to look up a zip code. You type in the address and it's going to give you the details. You always want this to say N for no. If it says yes, then that's not a good address. You want to choose a different address so that the banks don't think that you're just operating out of a P.O. box or out of a UPS store, because they will absolutely deny you for that. All right. So choosing the right address is very important. The other thing you're going to want is to have a phone number for your business. You're also going to want to make sure you have a phone number for your business, an email address, a web domain. We already went over how to look up web domains. All right. Once you're ready to get a web domain, you can use any one. GoDaddy is cool. That's been around forever, right? So everyone knows GoDaddy. GoDaddy also has, let me show you that. Boom. Right. GoDaddy also has everything you need. It has the domain, it has the website, it does hosting, it does email, right? So if you are online exclusively, everything you can get everything right here from one price. Whether it's you could pay for it monthly or you could pay for it annually. Okay, so that's super simple. You want to make sure you have all of those. When it comes to a business phone number, you can get that with your virtual office. So that's not too hard. It's nothing crazy. If you don't want to get it with your virtual office, then you can always get use a service like Call 8 or Ring Central, Magic Jack, any voice over IP type of service is not a problem. All right, so we have the name, we have our address, we have our phone number, we have our web presence with the website and the email set up. Once we have all of that, you would then go to your Secretary of State, whatever state that you're going to do business in. A cool thing about registering your business is not based on where you live, it's based on where the business is going to operate. So if you live in Florida, well, no, let's say if you live in Maine, but you're going to be doing business in Florida, then you can register your company in Florida. It doesn't have to be in Maine. Just remember and keep in mind where you plan on doing business, it makes the most sense to get your virtual address in that state. It don't make sense to get a virtual address where you live at, let's say in Maine, but then you want to register your company in Florida. That don't make sense. They're gonna reject your application because they're like, well, if you are in Maine, then you need to do business in Maine. So if you plan on being in Florida, get a Floridian address, Floridian phone number, or 800 number, and then register your company in Florida. That's how that works. Okay. Once you do all that, you register with the state, you can leave it without an EIN, or you can finally go and get your EIN number. Now, something that's super important, EINs are free. EINs are free. You do not need to pay for EIN number. And let me show you how crafty folks are on the internet. You see where this says sponsored, and it comes up as the very first thing, and it says taxfiling.com. This is a website that is going to charge you just to get an EIN number. You see, filing for your tax ID online. You don't need anybody to assist you for this. It's free. You don't need to click anything under sponsored. You see, that say sponsored, you don't need that. This say sponsored, you don't need that. Anything, if it say .com at the end, you don't need that. This is what you want, IRS. This is the only government organization that gives out EIN numbers. The only one. If it say sponsored, skip it. You want to go straight to the IRS.gov. And then boom, right? Apply for employer ID number. This is also the website where if you needed to get, if you're international and you need to get an I-10 number, you would come here as well. And you see here, you can get an EIN number with your social, with the I-10 number, or with another EIN number. Okay, this is super easy. It just walks you through the steps. And it's free, so you don't really got to do too much with this one. All right, and the reason you want to make sure you set up your business before you get the EIN, because they're going to ask you all of these questions. Do you have a sole prop, a partnership, a corporation, an LLC? Is it an estate, or is it a trust? Yes, you can get an EIN for an estate and for a trust. It's not only for an LLC, right? And they ask you all these questions, right? And then they'll start asking you things about the actual business. How many? Where are you located? We said Florida at first, boom. It's going to ask about, are you multi-member? So that means, do you have an operation agreement or operating agreement with multiple people on there? How much will each people own of the company, right? All of that broken down already. Why do you need an EIN? And then he's going to ask for info. I'm just typing anything in. I don't have a number. Let me see. No. All right, type in a number. Wow, yeah. Wow. All right, so they're going to definitely search for your social to see if you match in a database, and they'll continue. Then you just continue on. At the end of it, you'll get your EIN. Now, something that's super important. Once you get the EIN confirmation letter, you're going to save it and print it out. Because when it's time to go for a bank account, they're going to ask you for your EIN. They're going to ask you for your articles of organization. They're going to ask you for the EIN letter. And they're going to ask you for an initial deposit, maybe $50, maybe $100, and your photo ID. But make sure you have that EIN letter, because every organization, when you go to the business side, is going to ask for it. All right. And essentially, the banks just want to make sure that your business is still in good standing with the state before they open up a bank account for you. Now, these are the key components of ensuring that your business is fundable from the beginning. Another thing that you'll want is you'll need a registered agent. Now, a registered agent is basically the person who's going to receive process of service. Process of service is basically any legal documents. Okay, so for some reason you or your company is sued, instead of the mail going directly to you, it'll go to the registered agent. So with a registered agent, there are a lot of websites that do it, and it's cheap. Like some are $100 for the year. This one right here is $49 for the year. One easy thing to do is just type in your state plus registered agent. So Maryland registered agent, Nevada registered agent, just whoever, right? $35 for a registered agent. And this is for the whole year. This is not a monthly fee right here. Okay, so super easy. Another thing about registered agent is that you don't have to pay somebody. You can have a friend or a family member be your registered agent. Just keep in mind that the registered agent's information does become public record, meaning anybody who's trying to sue you can pull up this person and their address. So you may not want it to be a close family member that you like, okay? Nor would you want it to be anyone that you may end up having a falling out with. Because if you get served and they don't give you that paperwork, you SOL. All right. So I paid for a registered agent. Like it's $50 a year. Super easy, no brainer to deal with it, right? And it's pretty cool. When you receive, they'll upload it to their website. Then you can log in, see everything. They'll call you, let you know that you've been served, all of that type of stuff. You definitely want that because every state requires that you have, not every state, most states require that you have a registered agent. And for the sake of your privacy, it's good to have a registered agent because you don't want everyone to know where you live. You don't need everybody all up in your business like that because eventually the point of all of this is to have privacy and to protect your wealth so people don't know how much you have or what all you got. That way you don't become a target. Okay, so we got the registered agent. Boom. Right? Now you got all that. You're good to go. You're registered with the state. You got your business email, business address. You have the EIN. You have a registered agent. Everything is good to go. Now you're set up. You have your website. You got your 800 number, right? If you decided to take the extra step and get a live receptionist, you got that too. So now, in some cases, let's say you set up a business, when your business is set up properly, and let's say you have a live receptionist, there are certain companies, let's say you go for an apartment. They have things where you can get an apartment in your business name. It's called a corporate lease. Some apartment buildings will actually call your business to see if you're an employee there. When you have a live receptionist, guess what? You can give them the script, tell them, hey, this is what you say to make sure to confirm my employment, even though you're the owner, but confirm their employment. They'll say, hey, great, that's great, awesome, boom, keep it moving, right? With this setup, you'll be able to get into just about majority of the banks. Just make sure, again, you use business names that are generic or business names that don't directly identify exactly what it is you do. Okay. The last thing is that always remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the like button if this was helpful. If you need assistance with setting up your business, use one of the links in the description to set up a consultation. We could definitely go through, or keep rewatching this video, and that way you can just set it up. But if you don't have the time to set it up, definitely that is the service that I offer. Make sure that you just click the link and set up a consultation with me, and we'll be able to go through and get that done for you. In the meantime, in between time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.